Hello and welcome to another Chimps Comics and Video Games unboxing video. Today we are unboxing Lego Batmobile 1989 Michael Keaton version, Lego number 76139. It has over 3,300 pieces. This is a very long build. I do recommend that if you are going to do this, that you have somewhere you can set this up because it may take you multiple days. For me personally, it took me over 10 hours to put this together, and that's just specific building time. That is not actually counting any time in between of like taking little breaks or eating my dinner or whatever. That was just straight build. So had we put that on here, it would be a very long video, hence why you can see that it is sped up at 10 times speed and it's down to an hour. Now, with that being said, I know that I cannot sit and discuss this Batmobile for an hour, and I don't want to bore you with other stories, so we're going to try and come up with something and possibly pop in off and on throughout the video. No guarantees. I know I'm at least popping in at the end, so I can give you my full review. We hope that you enjoy watching the build of the 1989 Lego Batmobile, and kick back, relax, and just check it out. It's a doozy. It's going to take you quite a while to put this together, but it is pretty fun to put together. So definitely check it out and enjoy. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We're quite a bit further into this build now. As you can see, there are a lot of pieces to put together with this. So we're going to just kind of go ahead and let the video play itself out here. I am going to start my review of this massive Batmobile. So I personally am a huge fan of the 1989 Batman movie. It's kind of what kicked me into comic book collecting and wanting to work at the shop and eventually owning the shop, Chimps Comics. Now, with that being said, this Batmobile is, and you'll see at the end of the video, but it's going to go really quick, so you may have to pause it. We measured it. It is huge. The final measurement is that it is about 2 feet long. So I'm remeasuring it right now. 9 feet wide. Height, not so much. It's about 6 inches tall. They made it to where you have a stand that you can put it on, but the stand does not attach to the Batmobile. It just sits on it, and unfortunately, the Batmobile kind of covers half of the little piece of plastic that they have a sign stating the stats of the Batmobile. That it's 21 feet 9 inches in length, width 7 feet 10 inches, etc. Unfortunately, no matter how you place this, you're going to cover part of that. Not a fan of that. I wish it had a bigger base. That also, I wish it kind of could attach to it so it was a little more solid, because I don't think many people are going to pull this off and play with it. It's probably more of a showpiece than anything else, and it kind of wobbles on top of it. That's from my experience. The steering wheel inside does actually work and turn the front 2 wheels, which is pretty cool. The back turbine engine, I honestly, I was very let down that there weren't Lego flame pieces attached to where you could have it look like it's firing up like they did with the smaller version of the Lego. But when you take that and you turn it, that's when you can pop the gun turrets out of the front of it, and it pops off the black pieces that are covering them, very similar to how it works in the movie. when Batman attacks Ace Chemicals with the Batmobile to try and stop Joker. It does pivot and swing around pretty decently on the base. It's not perfectly smooth, but it's smooth enough to get the job done. Now, my personal opinion is when you pick this up, like you want to move it to a different shelf, transport it somewhere else. I kept having pieces pop off of it. The back of the Batmobile, where the exhaust are, they don't stay on very well. They constantly keep falling off on me. Very frustrated about that, especially with the price of admission on this piece. Then the front end of it, where the lights are, I had it to where at one point the piece that holds the lights came loose. So I tried to, all the lights, the yellow bricks, the clear yellow bricks popped off. So I had to pop them back on. It took me multiple tries to get those to actually stay on when I was popping the piece back onto it. They kept just falling off and falling off every time I tried to reattach this piece. That frustrated me as well. Um, so there are little things like that that I feel like they could have done better. Made it to where the exhaust pieces stayed on better, the smaller pieces don't fall off. I feel like when I'm picking it up to transport it, that the bottom of it is pretty sturdy and stable, but if you grab at the wrong spot, you are more than likely going to knock Lego pieces off of this. It does not seem to be the most sturdy of pieces on the bottom, or specific other pieces that just aren't attached that well. Cosmetically, the piece is gorgeous. I do wish that some of the top pieces where you can see the Lego studs were covered. I wish that they covered every Lego stud on this so that you could actually see just the sleek black, just like the original Batmobile was. There are numerous pieces to on the sides, on top of the cockpit piece, and on the like if you're facing the, if you're imagining that you're in the cockpit and looking out the front, basically the left and right side on the top, just stud pieces everywhere. And I understand this Lego, you want to be able to see some studs on top and in various places so you know it's Lego. But then you have the nice bat wings in the back and the front piece that covers the front wheels. Those are slick. They're sleek. They look nice. The way the cockpit opens is pretty cool. I mean, it slides forward just like it does in the movie. The inside of it is definitely, it's a larger scale, so you won't fit your Lego pieces or Lego minifigures inside of it. You can sit them in there, but they're not going to look like they belong in there. And realistically, if you were to put a figure in there that looked like it belonged in there, it would probably be a 3 3/4 inch action figure, like the size of the old GI Joes from the '80s. The gun turrets, when you do pop those, I wish they had a firing feature. I didn't see anything with a firing feature on there. And you can find that on some of the cheaper Legos, like the little $50 ones that they make. But it wasn't on it. You pop off the black pieces when you turn the turbine engine in the back, gun turrets turn up, looks cool, doesn't fire. That's a letdown. This should have fired for the price that you're paying for this thing. It is a very fun build to do, but there's just certain play mechanics that aren't there. I mean, if you can turn the steering wheel and turn the front tires, why don't the gun turrets actually fire anything? That I didn't understand. Didn't understand why they built it that way. Cosmetically, I love it. I do it's going to look great on the shelf. Put it beside the tumbler that they had made a few years ago that I've got. It'll look great. But playability wise, yeah, I'm definitely, this is not one you play with. This is one you put on a shelf, just make it look pretty. If you play with it, you're going to have a couple little bits that you'll enjoy, but for the most part, you'd roll it back and forth in a straight line. You're not going to be able to turn the wheels or anything. So it's not for kids. This is literally one you buy, you put together, you put it on a shelf, and you admire. For that, it does a good job. For playability, no, that's a poor job. If I If I had to give it a rating on a 10-point scale, playability wise, maybe a 3. And I don't even know if it should be that high, but there's a couple of neat features. On a shelf looking cool, yeah, it does that. I'd give it a 9. I would give it a 10 if you saw less studs on it. As far as the build itself, it is very creative. The fact that they're able to put all of these pieces together and actually make it look like the '89 Batmobile with 3,300 pieces is pretty cool. But because you have pieces that fall off, that's very frustrating. So take that with a grain of salt. If you're looking for a fun build that you can invest a lot of time in and you're not into the buildings, but you just like big display pieces like the Star Wars ships they did years ago that were oversized, or even the Tumbler, it's a good comparable piece. No question about it. I recommend it if you're a diehard Batman fan like myself. You grew up watching the '89 movie. One moment, my headset wants to shut off on me. It's always fun when it does that, so I can pull it off for 1 sec. Bear with me. All right, so I got that fixed. I apologize for that. You probably just heard some background noise of the headset moving. So the stand itself, honestly, too small. Should have been bigger. Feels very flimsy. I might not even display it with it. I kind of prefer the display stand that came with the tumbler, where you didn't put the Batmobile on it, but it had a nice sign that actually went up behind the minifigures. That was kind of cool because it felt like kind of a showpiece with it. The minifigures themselves, they look pretty cool. The Michael Keaton one, I do like that they have the 1989 bat symbol on it. If you ever noticed in the marketing of it that they used a normal bat symbol, but on Michael Keaton's costume, the bottom point of the bat had 2 extra points on the logo on his suit. So it's nice that the little plaque, I guess we'll call it, doesn't have that because they didn't use that in advertising, but on the minifigure itself, it does. That was nice. I like that feature. The Joker figure looks good. I wish they could have painted some green hair on the back of it so that when his hat's on it, it looks like he still has a head of hair. The Vicky Vale, just she's very plain, basic. You know, she looks like she's wearing the dress that she went to meet Joker in, although they did mess up on her because on her legs you can see where the dress ends, but there's no skin tone below that. It's just a solid green color. That doesn't look right to me. It's for what this is. I wish that would have been better. The Batman has a sculpted cape on it instead of the normal cloth capes that you see on almost every other Batman minifig. So it's kind of nice to have the sculpted cape so it looks nice and leather. Actually looks appropriate. The stand that they're on, it's a decent stand, but the gargoyles that are on it, they don't look like gargoyles to me. We really don't know what they were thinking on that. I mean, you have these fake little wings and little heads, but you don't have a face. The gargoyles that were on the Arkham Asylum builds that they did in the past, I thought those looked way better. So I kind of wish, even though that this was made to try and look like the end scene where they're fighting on the side of the church with the gargoyles, I kind of wish that it would have had just then the display plaque behind that, and don't even worry about giving me the stand for this thing because I don't even know if I want to use it, to be honest with you. Overall, I am satisfied with this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not nitpicking and trying to figure out things I didn't like. I want to give you the positives and the negatives that I see as a diehard Batman fan and someone who enjoys building Legos over time. So, with this, I don't regret it one bit. I enjoyed building it. It's going to look great on the shelf. I'll put that on a shelf. I'll put the tumbler on the shelf by it, either above or below it. It'll be just nice showpieces in my showroom. But they definitely had some things they could have done a little bit cooler. Visually stunning, playability not there, which it's Lego, so you want some form of playability there, even if you're just going to put it on a shelf. Now, as I was building it, I did have a couple pieces that were missing from the bag. I had to go dig them up out of some extra pieces to finish this off so that it actually looked appropriate. So if you do have this, I do recommend build it soon. I don't know what Lego's turnaround is on replacing missing pieces. If you wait a few years, crack it open to build it, are they going to replace the piece? I honestly don't know. I don't know their policies. You would have to look into that. But overall, I'm satisfied with it. So display, I'm going to give it an 8. I want to give it higher, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because of the stand. The stand needed to be larger so that you could actually get the plaque further out and see it, or the plaque just needed to be put behind the minifigs like it was with the tumbler, and forget the rotating stand. Because most people, if you display it, you're not going to have enough space to rotate it around and be like, I want to display it where it's facing front, or it's on its side, or it's backwards. You can't really do that. If you're putting it on a shelf, you've got to have a very large shelf for that. So the stand itself, not a fan of it. It was a waste of Lego pieces for me, honestly. Didn't care. If it didn't have the stand and the plaque would have been behind the figures, I probably would have given it a 9 for display purposes. Playability, kind of already covered that. Already gave it a number. Design, the design is very interesting. It's neat. There's certain times when I was putting it together, I really didn't know where they were going with the build itself, but I did think it looked interesting enough that I was curious how this was going to play out. And I learned a few tricks with building with Legos. One of my gripes on the display, because I'm literally looking at the piece right now and it just keeps glaring at me, is on the top of the cockpit. You can see that there's a very large black square piece that's flat with no studs on it, but in the middle of it there's a dot from basically being made into plastic. That plastic is not as shiny as every other black piece. When you get to the end of the video, you might be able to see that better. But I am not a fan of that piece. I wish it could have had the same shine to it that the rest of it did. There are certain parts on the Batmobile itself that has space between, which I understand why they did that, but it kind of deters away from it for me. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied. I could imagine some people out there doing some custom builds or custom adds to this to try and make it more sleek, like the original Batmobile was, because that is a gorgeous vehicle. I do like it. Don't get me wrong. If you have it, put it together. I think you'll enjoy it. I don't think anybody will actually regret purchasing this thing. But just keep in mind, there's a few little things that they could have done better overall. Just be careful if you see something wrong after you built and you're like, oh, this Lego's spaced out a little incorrectly, or I didn't get this tire well all the way perfectly in. I don't like the way it looks. Be careful fixing it, because you're liable to pop other Legos off. That's something I have done numerous times already, and it's only been a couple days since I finished it. Like right now, I'm trying to fix a tire well, and I think I'm just going to spin it and display it on the other side to where I don't have to see that. So I know it sounds like I'm let down. I'm not. I do enjoy it. I think it's going to look great, but I'm not going to use the display stand for it. I'm just going to put it on a shelf, enjoy it for what it is, display the side that looks better as opposed to the tire wheel that I messed up a little bit, and just kind of go from there. So thank you for watching our video. I kind of went on a little bit of a rant there, and I apologize. I can see that my timer is counting close to 17 minutes on my review here at the end. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like and share our videos. We hope you enjoy them. We're just doing these for fun, so they're just for you in case you guys are bored on a night or something and want to check out what we're up to. Lots of magic unboxing videos for cards that we've uploaded. We've been doing some sideshow reviews, now getting into Lego, and off and on whenever, if I have time, may start trying to do some live streaming of video games that I'm playing. We've done a little bit of live streaming of Magic events, and we want to try and do some more of that. We want to give you all kinds of extra content that we can squeeze in without without technically changing too much of our time because we put a lot of time into just upkeep with the shop. We hope that you enjoy it and that you'll come check us out if you haven't. And if you are one of our regulars, we thank you very much for supporting us. So, like, share, check out our videos, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. Thank you very much, and have a good night.